Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hotline League. This is an amazing episode. We have a shocking episode. There's going to be revelations in this episode that you cannot believe. Everything revealed, and it's all coming from Cubby. I don't know what it is, but he told me at the start of the show, before the show started, he had some stuff he was going to be talking about in this episode that will disgust and amaze all of you. But first off, my constant co-host, Mark Zimmerman, is here. Mark, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Vibing, big chilling, all that stuff.
Great. Thank you for maintaining the energy that I put into the intro and making sure that the show did not drop at all in excitement as we moved into your part of the introduction.
Very natural way to keep it going.
Yes.
Very natural.
Thank you. Listen, I'm trying to put some energy back into this scene because when I look at that LCS broadcast and the number beneath it, I don't see much energy there. Either way.
Whoa, don't throw stones in glass homes, sir. How's that surprise test going?
Oh,
LCS
I told you that in confidence. No, actually, great point. Everyone, please go look at my surprise test that I put out over the weekend because, my God, that thing underperformed. And people who watch it say it's great, but I did not expect to ever see my ability to drop a surprise test and have it get less than 10K. And we put a lot of effort into that. We might put more effort into that episode of surprise test than any others. And nothing makes me want to quit my job more than spending a bunch of time and effort doing something like that than having it just fucking die. Anyway, shout out to Alienware for sponsoring the show. We got Cubby here. Cubby, welcome to the show. How you doing?
Hey, good to be back. All is well. I don't know if I should follow Mark with the lack of energy or follow you with too much energy.
Please follow me. Whatever Mark is doing on the show, do the opposite because if you do what Mark does, it will ruin the chance that anyone will ever watch the show again. He does as much as he can to undermine. I think one or two episodes ago, he told people to stop watching. I mean, he told people to stop watching a couple episodes ago.
He did host an "Are You Smarter Than" episode for LCS on the same week you dropped a pop quiz or surprise test.
Yes,
landslide victory.
Maybe that's it. Yeah, maybe he's just trying to get you from the top of the mountain.
That's true. Mark is constantly undermining me at every opportunity he has.
Right, here's the energy. You ready for me to tangent into what I did this week?
Well, sure. I was gonna ask Cubby a little bit about his appearance as an LCS caster because he's back again.
Go for it.
All right, it was fun. I like the cat cam personally at the moment. No, it's always a privilege to work LCS. To be able to go back and do that in summer is cool. And I had a busy week. I helped out with 2 videos for challengers and then the 1 video for the promo for LCS, which is kind of fun. Shout out to Pastry Time who helped me put that one together. But yeah, it's always fun to cover the league and definitely a lot of weird stuff going on. I will say the 2 games I had, I felt like the team that should have won lost from poor play, so that was kind of a bummer. But yeah, it was, always a treat to join the show. And yeah, it really was everyone's a huge help behind the scenes whenever I'm able to hop in. So yeah, do what we can.
Yeah. Well, glad to have you here. Okay, Mark, now's your chance to shine. What'd you watch this week?
More importantly than watch, who played Final Fantasy 16? Who's in there with me?
Ooh,
dude, Cubby is no-lifing Final Fantasy 16 really hard right now. I'm meeting with them tomorrow. I'm happy to get some time with them. Yeah, Cubby, I just want to say I really appreciate you being here, even if you're not Cubby.
I'm seeing that 15 had better combat. Do you agree,
15?
Mark? Yeah.
15 did not have better combat. Who said that?
I've seen that in a few places.
Okay, well, whoever said that is actually smoking crack.
Okay.
That's like an actual test you could administer to a crackhead and be like, which one had better gameplay? And if they say Final 15, they're on crack. 16 clearly has better combat.
Okay.
My take is that 15 is actually a better game. I prefer 15 to 16.
Okay.
And this was the hot take that I was tweeting over the weekend.
That is actually a very hot take, I feel like. Because people are
It's a very hot take.
People are acting like 16 is like a perfect game or near perfect.
I think that's just pure cope. It's like such a fine game. Like it's so okay because it just doesn't try to do anything. There's literally 2 elements to this game and it is the combat and the story. There is like no real RPG systems. There's no real side content. There's nothing of substance beyond those two things, which is very strange to me for a Final Fantasy game to just have nothing else to do. And even at that point, like the combat isn't that insane. And I would say it's like not any better or deeper than God of War, Bayonetta, or like any like Devil May Cry. It's like not substantially better than Nier Automata. Like I would play all those games have better combat.
So what 16? You're saying is,
yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So what you're saying is that when you play this game, you look like how your cat looks right now, just kind of.
It's fun. The tens.
Okay.
The tens blow my brains. It's just a fine game, and like the plot is like it's fine. It's not great, and like it does the typical JRPG Final Fantasy thing where like the way it presents the plot is just so boring. It's just cutscenes and quick time events that like have 5-second long windows. Where
you were trying to convince me the plot was good. Like you came when you came over last week.
Prologue though. Yeah. Dude, the prologue, which is what everyone got juiced on, was like actually amazing. I won't spoil, but like the end of that prologue gets you so stoked to play the game. But then like there's just random cutscenes that have nothing to do with anything that's like immediately happening. And like, God, people always compare like epic stories to Game of Thrones. You know, it's like, oh, it's like political and there's all these things. The thing that Game of Thrones got so right, where every other epic thing, like even Lord of the Rings of Power gets wrong, is like there's no logical reason to show me the scene that you showed me within like the context of the plot. Whereas if you look at the plotting from Game of Thrones, it's like fucking God tier, where you find the White Walkers, one dude survives the first encounter with the White Walkers, you follow him get captured by the lords who behead him, he warns those lords, and then they get caught up in this Game of Thrones, you know, where the king visits them, and then the king tells them, hey, by the way, the real heir to the throne is often Esteros, and then they show you her, and every new person that they introduce logically follows a scene before it for why you're now seeing this person. Dude, fucking Final Fantasy 16 just yeets dumbass cutscenes in there for no reason, just to like break you up from the main plot line. And then like people are like, it's just like Game of Thrones. I'm like, yeah, if you removed all the subtlety and craft from the plot, sure, there's like some similarities.
So it's just like Rings of Power.
Because I know
just like Rings of Power, dude. When Rings of Power just cut away from the main plot to show hobbits like stealing berries from wolves, and then the wolves never show up again, I'm like, what is this shit? Anyways, point is
the cat has left. The cat wanted LCS content.
I got too animated. He couldn't handle the heat that I'm cooking right now.
Do I dare ask if anyone has seen Secret Invasion here? Is that did come out?
I actually watched an episode or two, but I haven't
watched it. I will say the Marvel shows have like I got burned out on the other Marvel shows.
Yeah, they're pretty tough.
And so I'm just waiting for Loki season 2, but maybe Secret Invasion is good. I don't know.
I'm not promising after the first episode, but Loki was good for me, so yeah.
Okay. I just, by the way, for people in chat upset about Mark's Game of Thrones spoilers, I am the biggest critic of Mark's spoilers, but he gave you just like the first 15 minutes of the first episode, so you don't.
That is literally in the first 20 minutes of the first episode.
Yeah.
Which speaks to the fact that, hey, guess what? A lot of shit happens in the first 20 minutes, and it's not fucking characters just the pacing of dialogue in video games is always like not very good, because like you have to like load an audio file and match it with an in-game rendered cutscene thing. I'm not slamming them, but then like if you're gonna make me watch an hour of bullshit, I'll just watch Crunchyroll. If I'm just gonna watch a cutscene, I'll just watch a movie. That's better.
So pretty
much
I hate.
Go ahead.
Like what you're saying is that the first episode of a show needs to end with a kid getting thrown out of a window for you to enjoy it.
Bigger spoilers. All right.
Oh,
I defended Mark's 20 minute thing. Now we got Cubby going deeper. All right.
Whoa, Cubby. You know what? I will say the prologue to Final Fantasy 16 has similar energy.
All right. Now we're getting multiple spoilers. We're gonna move on. You guys can't help yourselves.
It's a free demos prologue.
Mark has like
you can go play it.
Mark has like spoiler Tourette's. If you get him on the topic of a game or a movie or something like that, he can't. It's just a matter of time before he blurts something out. All right. Anyway,
you blurt spoilers at anything. I'm like, yeah, the clouds in the game don't look very good. And you're like, spoilers. There's clouds in this game.
I just defended you for people who were blurting spoilers out. And
that was a backhanded compliment.
All right. Anyway, let's move on to talk about League of Legends esports. It's been I don't know what it is. I feel like after the walkout stuff and MSI and the drama with different teams this year and all that stuff, TSM drama, EG drama. These weeks just feel so uneventful. There's actually a lot to talk about because the games are like we're a third of the way through the split and their standings are crazy and all that stuff. But I'm just like Hotline League rolls up and I'm just like, wait, there's nothing insane that has happened this past week that's like historic for the industry. Well, what are we going to talk about? The games, I guess. Yeah, Arsh, I agree with Arsh. Arsh says it feels so boring to not have a world-ending scandal in the LCS this week. Exactly. I've just gotten my brain is like not able to get excited about things that don't pump me full of adrenaline.
It's like you just jump the shark. So now everything has to be end of the world or it's not entertaining. It's like you got to reset the power levels in WoW after an expansion. That's what the LCS is doing.
Yeah. Winston, we need a player to make like a death threat or something. Anyway, all right, so let's.
We need someone to not shake a hand. We need that, except better this time,
Yeah.
I'm disappointed Ayla didn't slap Vulcan. We were hyping that up in a game of Meme Mug, which was cool, but
physical assault.
Yeah.
All right, no, what is there to talk about? Okay, FlyQuest just completely collapsed. A lot of people, they were a decent. Did anybody have them at the top of their power rankings, or did everybody just have Cloud9 there?
EG?
I was talking about FlyQuest because I assume at the start of the split there were a decent number of people that put FlyQuest number 2, but I wonder if anyone was putting them even first place.
Someone put them 1.
There was one.
I can't remember who.
It was like I think it was Rafa. I think it was Rafa, just the troll. Yeah.
Gotcha. And now look at them.
Universally top 3, pretty much.
Yeah, and my God, you look at the standings; they are 0 and 6. The next lowest 100 Thieves and Immortals at NRG at 2 and 4. Like it's not even like they're tied with Dig or something like that, or somebody's like one game ahead of them. Like they are just at the bottom. So I like it's actually so good for them that playoffs are top 8 because I think things would be looking really grim for them if it was top 6. So that's probably the biggest story.
I still think it's grim.
Probably the biggest story besides EG tied up with C9 now because C9 lost that last game. So interesting stuff going on there. Anything else? I mean, obviously we could talk about TL looking better than I think a lot of people expected. NRG looking worse. There are a lot of things to talk about with these other teams, but I don't know if there's any other major stories or conversations that I am missing. I saw you interacting with LS Cubby about control wards, and I've missed this. Is LS down on control wards right now?
So there was a player who was making his debut in Challengers this split. Their name is Zamudo, and they boot camped in Korea with LS this past split. And through the first round robin, he has bought 0 control wards in 18 games. And so that is, I don't know, it's a pretty funny stat.
How many of those 18 games has he won?
I think wildcard are 11 and 7. They're pretty good actually. I think they have a nice. It's nice in challengers like lower levels when you have slightly unique reads on the game, and I think their jungler is playing really well this split. So yeah, it's been really good to see actually at a wildcard. So yeah.
Sounds like they would have won some more games if they bought some control wards to me.
Dude. I mean, who knows? Just gank top. I guess we find out.
Having not watched the games, I guarantee you, if that guy bought some wards, they would.
Well, we could talk about that if we want. There's also sort of in LCS adjacent stuff. There's Soul Fighter, which is like the big cross League of Legends other game event that just got announced. If anybody wants to like somehow link that back to esports, I think that's something we can talk about because. We don't tend to talk too much about like the broader League of Legends ecosystem game stuff here outside of the esport, but I know there's been a lot of doomerism, quite frankly, around the game as well, starting off this year when the cinematic didn't come out, and there were people like, what about the game modes? There's going to be 2v2v2 v2 because they looked at Magic the Gathering's Commander and said, hey, we should do that.
They looked at TFT, they looked at Battle Right, they looked at anything other than Magic, I bet.
Okay. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff to talk about, but anything else that I'm missing? Bakery, the General manager for Dig says Dig beating EGNTL is pretty big. I don't know. Even Dignitas's GM is surprised by how successful they're doing.
I believe he also tweeted that Rich is the best player in the league, which I don't know if I agree with that, but Rich has been damn good. So
I don't agree with it because it's not ambitious enough. I think Rich is the best player in the world.
I think that's where you kind of have to go.
Who would win, Faker of League of Legends scale? Or Faker of Heroes of the Storm? That's the big question.
He's been good. So that's been pleasantly surprising. We'll see what TSM does this upcoming week in mid. If they do start playing Ruby or not.
Oh yeah, that's
might be interesting to look out for.
Does anyone know the answer to that yet?
I know that they've been playing both in scrims as of last week, so I don't know where that is now.
I guess we'll find out.
Yeah.
Who are they running in their academy?
Unlucky.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Anyway, so let's talk about League of Legends esports with some of you all. Mark, do you want to do the spiel?
Sure. If you have not seen this show before, or you just forgot how everything works because your mind got wiped, this is a live call-in show. You can go ahead and join the Discord link, which I'm spamming in Twitch chat right now. Once you get here, go ahead and join the pleb topics or subtopics text channels to go post your takes. You need to join the pleb calls and sub calls voice channels in order for me to pull you if I like the take that you posted, where I will move you to the waiting room. If I like it, you'll hang out there till it's your turn. We'll do a quick audio check, make sure your microphone's working before you pull you on air to talk with us.
And if you are a sub, first off, thank you for being a sub. Really appreciate subs in this trying esports winter. I burn the subs that you send me in my fireplace to keep warm during esports winter. And hypothermia is starting to set in. Anyway, but if you are a sub, be sure to join the subtopic chat by linking your Twitch and Discord account so that you can get access to the subtopics chat. And it doesn't guarantee that you get on the show, but it does move a little slower there, so you have maybe a little bit of a better chance of getting on. We try to pull from both. Either way, that is how things are going. While Mark is grabbing folks from the topics chat, let me go ahead and read off some subs. Speaking of subs, Nuclei for 3 years. Nuclei subbed for 3 years, then put like an awkward face, which I find interesting. T-Wood Chronicler, Zabel, Sakovitz, Filth Monk, Dark Tarkanis, Super Pencil Dude, Uwu Rusty Nerd, Robot Russ, CJ7, Poby, M. Lewis No, Darth Nomi, Flash D, and Cherry Lace. Thank you all for your subs. Mark, you want to go grab... Oh, Mark is already off to grab the first caller of the evening. Excited to have all of you joining us here this evening. Please spread the word of the show. Alice has been looking for a gifter for 20 minutes. He's just like, will anybody please give him a sub? And he's just a desperate man on a corner begging for a Travis Gafford sub. That's how in demand these things are. He can't even get one himself. All right. Let's see. It is, I think this is Zemelci. I can't tell because Discord changed how they do streamer names. Is this you, Zemelci?
No, it definitely isn't.
It is Zemelci. Zemelci, tell everybody where you're calling from.
I am calling from the United Kingdom.
From the UK. What do you want to talk about on the show?
The take I think Mark pulled me for was TSM subbing out Insanity would be the perfect farewell by the org to their time in the LCS and would show why the league is better without them.
Ah, okay. And we should say that there's a bit of conflict of interest or bias on the chat or in the show because Mark and Insanity have beef. And so it's going to be difficult, I think, for Mark to weigh in a uncompromised
I can't
way.
wait for Ruby to take his spot. I'm sick of watching this Graves mid one trick ruin the LCS. Thank God he's getting benched for Ruby.
Anyway, Zemelci, why don't you expand on this?
Okay, so I think it slightly ties into the point that you've been harping on more recently, and I want to preface this by saying that I don't have anything against Ruby for like taking the off, and if Ruby gets stage time and people like attack Ruby, I think that's fucked. But like Insanity is NA talent and has come up and has played interesting stuff, and it's been like, sure, they're not the best team in the league, but it's been working enough to get them wins. And so it feels so representative, particularly of like the Sword Art onwards era of TSM, of just, what do you mean there are players in North America that we could look to build our North American League of Legends team? No, we must find as many green card players as possible and then just slam in whatever LPL player or like LCK player we can pay $500 million for. And just, I know that like TSM leaving the league isn't going to kill like that train of thought with them, but like Insanity winning, and then if Ruby gets subbed in and they start losing, it will just feel like such a perfect encapsulation of the stupidity and the problems of it all.
I somewhat agree, but I also understand the situation that TSM is in, where you've told this player that they get to play, and you bring them over, and if you don't even let them have a chance at it, it is a complicated situation, I guess is what I would say. Now, I would say it's a complicated situation in part because teams insist on bringing players over that consistently have visa issues, that then when they show up, they need a lot of time to warm up because they've had visa issues, blah, blah, blah. Like, the fact that we are in this situation in the first place, I think, is indicative of a strange obsession with, players and refusal to admit that North American talent can be good when placed in an environment where they can succeed. Cough, revenge, cough. But I don't think, Zemelci, that it's as explicit as if they dare use this player who they told could start. I mean, at the very least, I think give him a try. Like, perhaps he could, maybe as good as Insanity's been, this player will outperform him.
Yeah, I mean, like, oh, sorry, Mark, were you gonna?
No, I was just gonna chime in if you weren't gonna go. You go.
Go ahead, Zemelci.
Cool. Yeah. So, like, I think, like, as someone who like did watch LEC, I don't particularly like think that Ruby is gonna be like blowing the socks off greater than Insanity. I mean, Azir's back in meta and his Azir was decent, but beyond, like, it's not even just the case of whether Ruby is necessarily better or not. It also feels like a move where there's been a lot of both positive community and like narrative sentiment around Insanity. And so, particularly as long as TSM are continuing to do well, it feels like such a potential like setup, just self-own in a way that doesn't really need to happen, but again feels somewhat distinctly TSM.
Mark, what do you think?
I know. I actually think for once Travis said something eloquent and intelligent, which is that like it's kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't, because you promised this guy a starting spot. You don't know if what he would have done if you didn't do that. He might have gotten an offer somewhere in the LCK or somewhere else or minor league where he pops off and gets another spot in the major league, and now you're just going to sit on him for a split and have long-term ramifications on this person's career potentially if Ruby doesn't start. Like, I think there is legitimate reasons to give him a shot. That said, it also feels shitty for Insanity, who I think clearly deserves it. I think if you were going to make people vote for All Pro right now, he probably gets some votes from people. I feel like you're looking at Eminez, Gory, JoJo, and him as like your top four. So like he'll probably sneak a couple votes, which feels weird to be like, yeah, you're like borderline all pro mid laner is probably gonna have to get benched now for Ruby to come in. So it's a shit situation either way.
Cubby, what do you do if you're in this situation and you have Insanity popping off, and you have Ruby, who you've told you gets to play, and it comes over here? What do you do?
I mean, I think it's tricky. I mean, I would love to say like, hey, solve it in practice, right? Like if you can split time and outperform, then you get the spot. Because it does suck. Like you did bring in Ruby, and I feel like, yeah, like you did make promises for him to play. But also, like I see Insanity playing, and like when I see Ruby's coach of Peter Dunn saying like, let's be honest, there's no way TSM should sub him in when Insanity or TSM around her are playing like this. I think that says a lot. And for me, I think that one of the things that has been overlooked about TSM is I actually think their meta reads have been pretty good. Like they're pairing up Graves with Maokai to really help protect Maokai early and like let him get into some of these games. And they're playing it like they're pairing it up with Jinx too. No one else is really playing Jinx or playing the style. And something that Insanity always had with Dignitas challengers, he was very often credited for how they were able to play map and having a very deep champion pool, which he even had when he played LCS with Immortals. And if I'm a team that's not going to be fighting at the top of the standings, then I feel like I kind of want players like that who might be able to take other teams off guard with unique strats. Because if you are just, it's the same conversation we have about like NA teams going to Worlds every year, right? Like, why do we always play the same stuff the other teams do? I feel like Insanity is almost doing that within this region itself, and it's working for TSM. Because TSM being 3-3 is something that we didn't expect. And so it's one of those things where it's almost like, if don't fix it if it's not broken. And it feels like TSM are doing okay right now. So I do think it's tricky, and I think that we're going to see Ruby at some point. But like when I look at the play, I think Insanity's given every reason that he can give to keep on playing.
The one positive thing I'll say for TSM fans too is like the rest of the team is playing well as well. While I do think Insanity, you can make the case, is maybe their best performing player right now. Wild Turtle has been very good in lane with Chime and generally pretty good out of lane. Hanser was like, Malphite one trick, but then showed his Cassante is not too bad either. Boogie's been good for the most part. So like, unless Ruby comes in and is like substantially individually worse or like really breaks how communication functioned or drafts or something, I don't think. I think the team should be able to continue to be okay. I think a lot of the other members on this team have done a good job stepping up and like won't crumple just because Insanity's not there.
Well, I guess the question I would have for you, Mark, is, all right, if you do feel like you have to give Ruby some time, how long do you give him? He subs in, he like ints the first game. Do you give him game 2? He subs in for 1 week and is pretty mid, and they go like 1-2. He's not like the biggest issue, but he's a recognizable issue from Insanity, or downgrade from Insanity. It's like universally considered that way. Like, do you give him week 2? Like, especially in a 6-week split, like how much rope do you give this person?
I would say like, yeah, that week it's pretty cutthroat, but Ruby's been here for a little bit now. I think like, I don't even think it was this week that he got here last week, pretty early in the week, if I'm not mistaken too.
Unless it's bad, I would actually say 2 weeks. I feel like 1 week's not fair, even with the 3 games.
You give him a third of the split.
Yeah, I think that like in order to actually give him a fair shot, that's what you have to do. Like coming in for 1 week, like I mean, unless it's like if it's god awful terrible, you can switch it up. But also, I mean, we've already seen that from someone stepping in later into the split. So, and that individual is probably gonna get another week. So,
welcome to North America game. Every mid laner gets one.
My issue is that honestly, if like I didn't watch a ton of Ruby's gameplay, but from what I've heard from what people saw in LEC and then some people that keep up with challengers, and that I trust the opinion on both, it's that they were surprised that like they didn't just go with Insanity. And that's honestly, I hope that like part of me hopes that Insanity can keep on playing well and improving that.
But Cubby,
I feel like
Insanity is a North American mid laner, right?
Yeah, I know. It's wild. He took second in challengers the last 2 splits, and he might actually be good in LCS.
Isn't that the biggest reason not to go with Insanity? Wouldn't going with Insanity be Insanity if you have a spot?
How old are both of them? Hold on, let me look this up.
Anyone know if Insanity speaks Chinese? Maybe.
That's what
Yes?
I was saying is like none of these guys are going to potentially fall them to the LPL, but maybe Ruby will.
I mean, I don't. My suspicion is the contracts don't move to the new region. I think they would have to re-sign or whatever, because if they're selling the slot, I guess it depends on how things are structured, but I don't think you can just be like, "Hi, we're signing you to a deal that would also require
Wait,
you
Ruby's
halfway through the
older than
contract."
Insanity. Ruby's 24. He's a boomer. Gross.
Dude, that tweet went from the weekend where you guys did the solo stuff, where it was like 24-year-old kid. Oh, I've got my whole future ahead of me. LCS casters, look at this decrepit old man. It's a miracle of modern science that this player is able to walk onto the stage. Oh, that was a banger tweet. That was one of my favorite tweets of the year. That's the MVP tweet. That tweet's getting all pro. All right. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I would be surprised if TSM is building a roster based on the idea that you move the players. My guess is that they're building a roster based on the idea that you can create value in whatever. But again, the rumors I've started to hear is that a deal's done, essentially. That that TSM is, that stuff is either agreed to or being sorted out. Like, again, not a report, but I don't think that it's a situation where they're going to be 3 weeks from now, a month from now, trying to figure out who's buying the team and, trying to get a value based off of how good the team works and all that stuff. So we'll see. All right. Anyway, thank you so much, Zemelci, for the call. Anything you want to shout out before we go on to the next caller?
Or before I do, Mark, I had another take that you said you maybe wanted. Do you still want it, or?
Nah, I think we're good.
Cool. That's good. In that case, I'll just do my shout-outs. I also wanted to respond to one point quickly, which is just that on the TSM being in a tough position, counterpoint, like Cubby said, they could have just never put themselves in this position in the first place, and I think that's the bigger screw up. But shout outs to Alienware, as always, and then my other shout out is that for the Battle of the Atlantic World Qualifying Series at the end of the year, it shouldn't just be LCS4 versus LEC4. It should be LCS and LEC4 all the way down to LCS to LEC 10th. You start at 10th, work your way up. It's banger content, and you motivate the teams by doing season kickoff style event. You let them sell emotes if their team wins. So if LEC 10th beats LCS 10th, LEC 10th gets to sell an emote in the Worlds bundle, and you make sure that the rev share goes to players, so that teams have they have a financial incentive to give a shit. Would be banger.
That seems like a take. I feel like you're not doing a shout out. That's a take. But
it's an idea.
It's an idea.
Anyway. Thank you very much.
There's some pretty big ideas in the world. I hope the next caller wants to talk about the idea of quantum mechanics.
Thank you for the call.
Hour shout out.
It sounds like in football every year when someone argues we should have Alabama play the worst team in the NFL and see what happens.
I don't.
That one I actually want to happen just so you can see those college players get their heads taken off.
Yeah. No. Honestly, yeah.
Thank you too.
Whereas I think NACL would win a lot of matches against bottom tier.
TLC is pretty good right now, and from what I hear in scrims, there's some positive win rates from more than one challenger team against some of our LCS teams. If scrim bucks count at all.
But Cubby, don't most of those NACL teams have North American talent on them?
Yeah, they actually might.
And they are beating LCS teams that presumably have non-North American talent on them?
I mean, we got to get flack, though, because, the promotions, the two best are Eminez and Unforgiven, who played in Challengers last split,
True.
Because we put them all on the tier list. And
thank you to
they are the two best.
Flash D for gifting a sub to LS, Cherry Lace, Jampire M. Avura, and Dark Alley HT for the subs. Really appreciate everyone's sub support. All right, Mark is off to grab the next caller. Where is Mark? He's got to come back. Come back, Mark. I need you. Either way, here we go. Mark is back. Treethan's here. Treethan, where are you calling from?
Hello.
Hello, where are you calling from?
Jersey City, New Jersey.
Jersey City. You already get your LCS finals ticket?
No, because they were only selling them for 2 days originally, and then later they were like, we're going to do 1 days. And at that point, I'm like, I don't know if I can afford to. Like,
Yeah, is
it's
that
so
what your take is about? I just want to make sure that that's not it.
No, it's not. I will not go on a rant any further.
Well, I will go on a rant really quickly, just as a side topic, because I want to get like the information out about this. What, Mark?
No, I was just saying, what
Are you aware of this, Mark? Did you know about this?
I don't know. What is it?
So, when LCS finals tickets originally went on sale, they went on sale, and so Riot does the thing that they always do, where they announce tickets are going to go on sale, but they share no additional information about it other than like the timing of when stuff is going to happen. So no like, hey guys, this is the amount that it's going to cost or any of that type of stuff. Tickets go on sale. That's when everybody learns about the cost of them. And they were only available originally as 2-day tickets. And I ended up reaching out to Riot about this because I was like, what is going on? Somebody has told me that this was also what happened in spring, though I don't remember that being the case. So if anybody can corroborate that when tickets originally went on sale in spring, they were 2 days, that would be helpful. But regardless, they were only 2 days. You could only buy 2-day tickets. And there was no details on when or if single day tickets would become available. And then, so people were like, okay, well, if I only want to go to finals, I have to buy a 2-day ticket. This is annoying. And then like a week later, they tweeted out, hey, we're going to do single day tickets available now. And then single day tickets went on, but I don't feel like they perhaps did the best job of broadcasting that single day tickets were around. And I know at least one person who hit me up that said that like they bought a 2-day ticket because they didn't know that 1-day tickets were going to be available, and now they are fucked because they can't do anything. They can't get a refund on the 2-day ticket. It's just like a mess. It's disappointing. Either way, sorry, that triggered me, Treethan. What do you want to talk about on the show?
No, it's fine. It's always a mess with that stuff. I'll always listen every week and see you rant about it, probably. This will happen again in the future. For sure.
I don't understand. Anyway, yeah.
All right.
Go for it.
So, I think North American talent is in a recoverable state, mainly off the backs of Evil Geniuses this split. I think Coach Moser is not getting enough credit in what she can bring to the table to the scene as the head of a team that has player development in mind from top to bottom.
Oh, okay. Sorry. It sounded like you had another out. You ended so abruptly. Is that the full take?
Yeah, that's the full take.
Okay.
Sorry.
So the idea, sorry, one more time. You think EG is revitalizing like the North American talent thing, and Kelsey's not getting enough credit? Is that what you were saying, NA talent type deal?
Yeah, like I think Evil Geniuses is at the forefront of what North American talent development can be in League of Legends, basically. Okay. And yes. I think that they themselves are going to probably drag it back to life.
All right. Anything else you want to expand on, or should we dive in?
I think I would love to hear your opinions on that.
All right. I went first last time. Cubby, you worked with Kelsey previously, and I know that you care a lot about talent development, so why don't you go ahead and give us your take? And also, is Kelsey head coach, or is she, because everything's head of coaches.
Yeah.
So, which is a confusing title, but
given that she's on stage coaching now.
Yes.
I think they cut costs quite aggressively in the off season. It's why she's on.
Yeah, it's
like in the break between spring and summer.
Yeah.
Okay, so she was head of coaches, but when you no longer have a head coach, the head of coaches becomes the head coach, or the head coach on stage, I guess. All right, sorry, go ahead, Cubby. What do you think?
I mean, first off, it's pretty wild that if you think of EG last split, all the players they sent to other teams are actually lower in the standings than what EG are now, using players that did, at least from like Armeo Ayla, right? They had a ton of success in challengers. I don't think that you can just credit Kelsey for that. Like, I still think that other orgs deserve credit. Like 100 Thieves, I think what they did in the past few years, I know that they decided to not continue their challengers teams, but they're responsible for still Tenacity, Canvy, Copy, Poom, Yawn, and others. Also TL, they have been the best team that we've had in Challengers and Academy the past few years. So they really are the ones that deserve credit for, Aoa Yawn, like how they ran with them and Armeo. So I don't think it's just EG, but yeah, I mean, like I never really like think that like talent like being like recoverable. I think that we have good players that are still competing. Like Insanity is a great example of this. We've even had players that compete at this level where they get revitalized, like Dokla. I also think that Fake God is actually playing ridiculously good right now on Challengers. If anyone has seen Disguised, like he is hands down the best top laner and might be the best player in the league that we have at the moment, which is wild to think because obviously his narrative from LCS is not good because he did not perform at all in his last split, right? But we still have players that are really talented in Challengers. It's just the question of like, will they get a shot or not? I think that some of the economics behind it have been weird because it used to be that they were locked behind buyouts, and now like no one has buyouts. So it's like, when you have LCS players going for no buyout, it's hard to reason to take Challengers players over them sometimes when the cost isn't there anymore. So I think it's weird, but I'm really hoping that the next offseason that we just have more people get a shot. Even players like Mir, who like are already kind of discovered and figured out because he was Arthur on HLE. Like the fact that Mir's not LCS is just a crime. It's not like it's irrecoverable by any means. It's just that I feel like more of these players just need to get a shot, and then we'll see what happens. I mean, Insanity's been really good. Like he's had a shot before, but like seeing him perform in LCS has been great. And there were mid laners that were beating him last split. I mean, Diplex and MNS got the best of him at times. APA was competitive with him. So yeah, I think there are other players that are good that it's just like, will they get an opportunity or not? And that's really tough.
So question, if Kelsey is head of coaches, do we blame her for EG getting blown out against Fnatic this past weekend?
Sure. Yeah.
Who cares about that loser game?
The Pew Pew Riot game.
Games, Mark. I can tell you that much. About.
I like calling it the Pew Pew game. It sounds equally dismissive as like sport ball. People are like, "Oh, you're gonna watch the big sport ball game this weekend?" I'm a nerd. I'm cool.
Yep.
I like that. Yep. I like that energy to dismiss Valorant.
Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, no one cares what you told anyone, Travis.
Let's talk about this. Why are you so hostile tonight? My God.
How am I hostile tonight? That was the first hostile thing I've said.
You literally, in the 2 calls ago, you said, I think Travis for once actually made a articulate point.
That was a compliment. You made a great
Guys,
point.
can you stop, please? This is worse than my parents' divorce.
All right. Anyway, Mark, go ahead.
I was just saying that I think it's cool that Kelsey put this squad together and that they're doing so well immediately. To Cubby's point about the fact that all the players that they lost or like that were removed from the roster are doing worse than them. It's cool that they hit this stride. I think it speaks to the fact that people like Armeo and Ayla and Revenge and all these people have a lot of potential talent in the right situations. I don't know if I would say that, like, I mean, I guess Kelsey or whoever put this roster together did a good job scouting it, but I don't know if they deserve credit necessarily for like developing any of these players because none of them played under EG prior, if I'm not mistaken.
Jojo Pion.
Okay, so Jojo Pion, correct. And he is their best player.
Yeah.
Do they get like credit for contracts, when he was with the EG with Jojo, I guess? Might be able to
maybe they actually counterpoint. We just talked about how all their previous players are doing not great anymore, so they undeveloped the players, like the players they did play for them are doing worse, and these new players that did play for them are doing better.
So, they left EG and the skill vampires came for him,
Yeah.
No, it's the other way around. EG is the skill vampire, and they nerf the rest of the league by getting all these seemingly great players, making them terrible, then redistributing throughout the rest of the world.
Yes. And then bringing
everyone's like,
in new
"What?
players.
I just got Vulcan. How is he so bad now? Like, why is my team?
What
terrible?
did you do to him?"
Yeah, exactly. No, but I think like if anything, it speaks to what Cubby was saying about how there is a lot of talent in Academy. Like I thought Diplex, like just in my head when it was like, who's 100 Thieves going to replace Bjergsen with? I was like, Diplex. He's like basically Bjergsen already, for the most part. Like plays control mages, maybe a little bit less cool of a champion pool. He doesn't have a pocket zillion as far as I'm aware, but plays control mages pretty well. Pretty good team fighter. not super aggressive, like can slot in and play a similar way. And then they just like didn't get picked, and they got Ruby, and I was like, huh? So like it does feel like there's players that just get overlooked. And I think for me, if anything's going to be like good for the future, it'd be figuring out how to get these players shots on teams. I think the buyouts being gone is a big thing. And I think if anything's going to be positive from this EG lineup, it shows how important actually having like a well-functioning team is over any one player's like insano individual skill. Excuse me, 100 Thieves got Quid, not Ruby. Sorry. I thought they were going to go Diplex, but yeah, wrong person.
Yeah.
Brain fart. But yeah, like I think that this shows that you can like. I bet these guys are pretty cheap. I think if you like, it will push teams who are currently spending too much money to blow up their rosters. I think FlyQuest is going to get nuked into all hell if they don't make World somehow after this. Like, there's no reason to be paying as much as I'm sure they're paying for that team and get these kind of results when you can like slap together a bunch of like good academy players and tier 2 players and get middle of the pack to top of the pack performance if they actually jive well.
So I have been on here before, and I have said that like the biggest way that you can close the gap in NA is actually through coaching. There are a lot of factors that we just cannot compete against when it comes to Korea, given the player base, the culture behind it, the ping, all that. So it's like, how can you try to at least close that gap when like you're just not going to be, you can't push players by like, having so many more players around them to get better. It's got to be through coaching, right? So, I mean, maybe you just credit EG there. Like they took a gang of people that have been successful before and were able to get them together like quickly. Also, I do want to, like, an aside, are you guys worried that FlyQuest is 06, like what that could mean for the spending of the league as a whole? Like, is that something that is concerning?
I am not worried at all about that. Like,
no?
I think, I mean, the league would be, I like FlyQuest a lot. I like Prince a lot. I like a lot of what FlyQuest is doing. They are one of the few organizations that is still investing into the league. So by that point, yes, I am worried. Like, I like a lot of the personalities. I like a lot of what FlyQuest is doing. Yeah. On the other hand, they are a continuation of the thing that we've seen in the past, which is overspend on import talent who oftentimes underperform. And like, I hope those players are here next year, but like, if you told me that Prince goes back, Vikla goes back, like we have the boomerang effect again, I would not be surprised. And I think to kind of link both of the things both of you were just saying, your question, Cubby, and what Mark was saying about figuring out how to get players up and for teams to recognize that they can bring up players and all that stuff and save money. My big concern is that this same thing happened with Danny and JoJo, where EG was doing really well with Danny and JoJo, and there was a big hope that this would mean that teams would be like, oh, you know what, now we can go get like good rookie talent and North American talent and do all this stuff. What ended up happening? The teams just voted to fucking drop the whole ecosystem out from as a requirement for the teams, and like it did not follow through. Like the results, the success of Danny and JoJo did not seem to change the mentality of teams, at least in the long term, and the way that they approach roster building. And so I don't have a ton of hope. Other than like the biggest thing that I think would force teams to do anything like that is going to be market forces. Like I don't think that the teams cannot fathom a world where North American talent can outperform like some exciting import rookie or import veteran. And so the only way to make this work is North American talent becomes significantly cheaper than imports, and they can't afford the imports anymore. And again, as I will always say, because I have to caveat this every single time, I am not anti-import. I am anti the import system that we have right now where players come over, underperform, boomerang at the cost of running North American players who are in many cases as good or better.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was about to say, it's funny that like, you bring up JoJo Danny to like kind of help that boom. I feel like there were some other players that like could have helped that boom and like are now. I think it's safe to say that Yawn is definitely a player that I think deserves an LCS slot with given his play. I'm pretty confident that like Busio as well, someone that has at least proven like in a second split he deserves an LCS slot. I think Harry's playing well. I said that the biggest crime of last offseason was that Armeo didn't get a team, and I think Armeo's more than shown that he deserves a slot. So maybe like it doesn't just take JoJo Danny, of course, being who like I did think and still are like generational talents when it comes to this game. I think there's also a lot of value to just prove like, hey, you can find players that are good in this league that you can build from within too. Like there's always gonna be value to that as well.
Do we have a TL take, Mark? Because I have a kind of
no
tangent.
I mean, think about that Skype message I sent you.
Okay, perfect.
EG is about the only team.
Yeah. Okay, so then let's go off on the side tangent here to ask both of you, what do you guys think about a player like Armeo? Because as much of a and I think Insanity kind of follows up on this too. Whereas as much of a rah NA talent don't get a chance to do what they get a good chance, or they come in like when Armeo was brought up, very nice dude, not an Armeo hater by any means, but I'm like, okay, we're back with Armeo, who has been around in and out for a long time and has some good moments, but also some not great moments, and has never really impressed. And like, it does, like, there is a little bit of a fatigue whenever I see that player pop up, because Armeo has played on good teams in good environments and yet has never been able to stick around. And
has he played on good teams in good environments? Name another good team in a good environment he played in.
Team Liquid. Let me look at. Okay, let me
pull. He was
subbed in. He was subbed in for Santorin having migraines. He played on that Doom TSM roster. He played for Echo Fox, which was like relatively cursed. Am I forgetting a team?
was
Dig?
Okay, I'm looking at Team Liquid. Yeah, I guess that was just a short period of time.
Yeah, TL, they went to 5 games in finals with Armeo.
Yeah, they went to 5 games. They beat TSM to make finals with Armeo.
Okay, you know what? Perfect. Thank you. It's actually, I thought for sure that there was at least a couple good rosters that this player had played on, but I am a victim of the same point that I have been championing for the last couple months, which is you put players who could be good on teams that are doomed and bad environments, and then surprise, surprise, they underperform. So and then you end up in the situation I was in 5 minutes ago, where I'm like, oh, haven't we seen this guy before? And nothing ever came of it. And then you put them in a good environment, and seemingly EG appears to be a fairly good environment, and they find success. So,
and to be fair, to that point, Travis, I think it's actually a great point, because like Dokla was on Immortals or Optic back in the day. It was Optic. Yep. And like, it was not a great team, and he was young and probably didn't play well. There's a lot of guys who are young when they get given their chance, like 1920, like Fake God kind of had happened to him, and then he kind of choked and wasn't great, and he's gotten a lot better. And like, this happens in LCK too. Like, Smeb sucked ass for a while before he became really good. Like, it happens in regions all around the world where like someone gets given their chance because you see the talent, but they don't pop off, and then they just get glossed over because, oh, we figured this guy out, he's not good.
So I will say, like, I know specifically for Dokla, and also this kind of ties into like why I've always been a fan of Armeo too. I know that like from talking with Dokla, when he played on Optic, like he wasn't good. Like he would say it himself, and he wasn't good in the league. But after that, like, and he kind of dropped down. He went to the Oceanic region for a split, and then came back to NA. He did kind of realize like, hey, this is the work that I need to put in order to, like, for me to go pro. And he ended up doing that. Like when he got back, he helped out with Wildcard, where they smurfed. He was on the Solo Fide roster where they didn't get paid with Zazel. That sucked. But like when Champs Cube came out, this guy was streaming it like Champs Cube every single day until 1 a.m. He was rank 1. He had a 1,500 gold diff at 15 in spring of challengers before he got promoted. And this guy like put in all the work that he could to give himself a chance, and he got it. So I think that's also part of like why having a stronger tier 2 scene is important, because that is a player where, yeah, that first chance didn't go his way, but he just worked his butt off in order to like get another shot. He played so many Champs Q games. Like, that's why I've always been a fan of Armeo. That guy was consistently top 10 in Champs Q and on the best academy team that we had. He was a shot caller. He was a leader. He's easy to work with. Like, the fact that he didn't get a shot this past spring, like, again, I said it was the biggest crime of the offseason. He just had no team. So, I mean, we still have a tier 2 scene, but like no Champs Q again. Those things build up the environment where the people that are willing to work hard can then climb up and succeed. And the fact that people like Dokla did that was great. Like, that's something that I really feel like Fake God's doing right now. with what he's doing with Disguise and in Challengers. He's been playing out of his mind.
Is Champs Q just dead?
They're waiting for... the last thing I heard about it is that it might be back if the players want it back.
I think it's probably dead.
So
I had not even thought about Champs Q.
I know.
I'm pretty sure
so
it got
frustrating.
sunset secretly. I don't know what happened.
So
before we start going,
Yeah.
okay. Players are lazy, right? Now we're gonna go full cycle and be like, these fucking NA pros.
Never
They
mind.
don't deserve a
Fuck
I
NA
have
talent.
nothing
They
to say
won't
about
use Champs
Champs
Q.
They don't deserve a tier 2 seed. It's called Champs Q, and they didn't want it.
But hey, look at Armeo. I mean, he used it a crap ton, and he was always done as performed whenever he's played the last few splits. So I really don't know what to say.
I was gonna say, like, the JoJo Pion example is like every once in a while you get like a generational, in air quotes, talent, like someone who is just such a stud. Everyone sees it. You know, everyone knew JoJo Pion was going to be great for a while, and then he comes in and, like, thank God he lived up to the expectations. Sometimes people flop, but like there are some players who you bring to the scene and immediately they're great. Berserker was immediately great. Obviously, just an incredible talent. Everyone was excited about him. Those can happen. But it's really foolish to think that, like, the point of your tier 2 scene is only to find those kinds of players, and that it's not also a scene where people can, like, go into the big leagues, struggle, go back down, get some more time, come back, and like these kinds of things. I think, like, you know, honestly speaking, if we're gonna get really doomer, like, Kenvi feels like he's on track to, you know, he's really struggling. I have not been impressed with him. I don't think many people have.
It sucks, man. Yeah.
And like, if he goes down to tier 2 and smurfs again, I hope he gets another shot, you know. But like, I want there to be a good tier 2 for him to go down, so he doesn't just like exit the scene or some shit.
It's important. Like, 26 out of the 50 players have played in tier 2 at some point, and there are a handful of players who wouldn't have a career if it wasn't for that. And some of them are making really solid pros like right now. I mean, Armeo is a great example of that with how well he's playing at the moment. TL would have never been able to pull off the roster that they have now without their tier 2 success with Harry and Jan. So yeah, it's. I still think it's really important. It should be a smart investment for teams if they want to save costs later by developing talent in-house. And I really hope that we see teams following through on some of the things that they said in all those posts when they were dropping their challengers teams. Because at the moment, I have seen no teams adding anything about their talent. It was just kind of false words, and that's disappointing.
No, dude, they're going to look to find other ways to support it. Totally. They're totally going to do it. They said they would.
Again, I think that something that's really lacking here in NA is that, like, you don't get coaching in this game unless you pay for it or unless you go to college or try like an academy team. Like, it's like, I think it really matters, and it's how you have to close the gap. Like, this is a game that evolves 3 weeks, and if you aren't playing 6 games plus a day, you were falling behind the curve. So you need people around you to help you kind of close the gap, and I think that just really lacks in NA. It's really tough.
I will say this. Teams had how long? 5-6 years of academy to do much with it, and they didn't. Just don't let them in tier 2.
Yeah, I mean, that was the argument I made too. Like, I didn't want TSM in tier 2. Like, they didn't give Haunter, Svenskar, and Wild Turtle a coach. Like, that's a crime. So I want orgs that are invested. I think Disguise has been great. Like, if I look at Fake God, Tomio, and Young, like, all their streams, they get 2K plus viewers just because they're on Disguise. Like, that's fantastic for those players, getting a lot more exposure. And they're making the most of it by streaming a lot. Like, there's a lot of motivation for that. So, yeah, I hope that we can continue to find good partners, whoever they are.
Yeah, for me, it's like the tier 1 scene needs to be more open to the idea of just signing guys like Armeo and like the EG side. And I think, to pull it back to the take, that's like maybe what it's done a good job of, is showing that you can be successful with players like this. You still need stars. I think, to be fair, JoJo is that absolute stud, and he's kind of carrying the team right now. And Unforgiven is also very, very good. So it's not like it's 5 guys from academy straight up, you know, who are like all these journeymen or something.
Dude, I'm going to go back.
I do think.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
The final thing I was going to say is, like, I just hope that, like, in the future, if like tier 2, the way I want it to be is like a team that has Kenvi and Tenacity and like those old 100 Thieves lineups just get to like smurf and look really good, and then they just get picked up by LCS teams. And whatever the tier 2 scene is, hopefully just like gives players the ability to showcase their talent and have enough money in it that they're not like going broke or having to like work at McDonald's while chasing their dream.
So I'm going to make the argument right now, and because I brought this up, or I started thinking about this when you brought up Kenvi, and you're like, Kenvi looks like a player that might just wash out or something. I'll make the argument right now. If you are interested in competing in the LCS, do not join Immortals. Just don't do it. And I'm going to read through a list of players that played on Immortals since that have left since June 2021. All right, so we're 2 years. Revenge, Fleshy, Ablaze Olive, Power of Evil, Lost, Ignar, Arrow, Xerxes, Destiny, Wild Turtle, Insanity, Raze, and Pretty. And I think what you could say about pretty much every single one of those players is that they joined Immortals and they either stopped playing competitive League of Legends when they left because they had such a poor showing, or when they left, they were in kind of a disgraced state and had their career like revitalized because another team picked them up. So like if you go to Immortals,
it's the low point of their career. It's the low point of everyone's career in that list, is what you're saying.
Yeah, essentially. And it's a good when you leave Immortals, you leave and people think you were bad. You know what I mean? There's never a point in time where people are like, oh man, that guy left Immortals and he developed so much and like he's now joining another team because he's like so good. No one ever, I mean, it's like revenge stuff. Like I know I am not Mr. LCS analyst by any means, but like I am so happy to see that dude pop off. And we're gonna there's another. I don't want to go down that road because I know we got to take about it, but I just like I legitimately think it's a really bad career move to join that org.
There were always certain teams in LCS where I did hear some players that they would rather play for certain challengers teams instead of that LCS slot, and that's a problem. So it doesn't just go for IMT, but that is a problem, and something that was very common in past off seasons. Also, Revenge tweeting out, "So this is what winning feels like," sent my sides into freaking orbit. That was so funny. So yeah,
we'll get to Revenge. Funny. Anyway, thank you, Treethan. I know we went all over the place, but
no, enjoyable.
Yeah, I think your conversation about EG set us off on a tangent about a lot of other things, but all good conversation. Anything you want to shout out before we take a quick break and maybe Mark says what he was thinking about saying?
Shout out to Final Fantasy 16, which is currently being played by my girlfriend and not me, and I'm incredibly jealous.
Very good.
That game seems sick. Have a good one.
Thanks. Have a good one. Mark, what were you going to say before we take a quick break?
Are you okay if we talk for 5 minutes?
Yeah, of course.
So we didn't really have a good take about the Quid situation. I wanted to pick Cubby's brain and your brain, Travis, about it because, like, it's not been good, but also he just got in. It's his first time overseas. He's a young kid in a different culture. There's like a bunch of reasons that it wouldn't go well, But now 100 Thieves is in a situation with a mid laner who's struggling. He was losing both sides of matchups. He played one side, then played the other. It's like, it's not good. And part of it you can say is like nerves or like, I don't know the kid. I don't know what's wrong with him, or if this is actually his level. But it's dicey given that it's such a short season to try and fix things. So like I want to get a heat check from you too.
I mean, a couple of things I want to point out just to set the context around all this is like people might say, well, yeah, but it's a short season. But like that's like it is irrelevant. It's not like his visa got delayed by the start of the split. He would have been available as a player. Like the delay in the shortened season is actually helping them overall.
Maybe halfway through right now if it was on schedule.
Right.
This would have been the wrap of week 4. So, yeah.
So I don't think that – I just think it's really important for anybody who's looking for excuses for 100 Thieves that they don't feel as though the walkout stuff like that helped or it hurt the situation worse because if anything, it helped. So, yeah, I think there's that. And then I don't know, man. Like, I get it. Bjerg left. He fucking told them he was quitting and then posted a video that was pre-prepared like an hour later or whatever people say. Like, clearly the dude kind of left them up a creek but without a paddle. But I don't know. I don't know if this was the best move.
Let's throw this around. So first off, I think the Quid 100% should get at least like, it sounds harsh, but give him another week. There's absolutely no question that you like if they bench Quid now. I think that I know that he was really bad and he was bad, but if you bench Quid now, that's. But
who are you benching him for? Nuke Duck?
No. Well, first off, that is one option. Second off, they don't. I mean, let's throw this around. What if you just try and go for Insanity? He's been a decent performing mid so far. He would speak English, not an import slot. TSM have 2 mids. TSM are not sticking around. If you give a wee bit of money where buyouts are nothing, is that something where 100 Thieves, like, is that a realistic option for them? Why not? You know? Could go get Diplux too, but I don't know where Diplux is right now. It's an actual option for 100 Thieves, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not ready to write off Quid quite yet. I think you stick with him no matter what for this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I would say, like, I don't know.
I mean, we're going to be halfway done with the split after Friday, by Friday evening.
Yeah, I guess it would depend on like what the players want to do, because I also am pretty sure that like the reason they got Quid was because like they were listening to players and like who they wanted to play with and who they didn't want to play with in particular. And I know we give a lot of shade at teams for this, for overlooking NA talent. I think this is a time where like players also overlooked NA talent when they're like, hey, who do you want to play with? I could be wrong, but that was
I mean, I know nothing. I've not talked to Peter about any of this stuff, but there's a caveat. But I would be shocked if there was not dramatic player input on who they wanted to play with going into this.
Yeah. So I don't blame anyone in particular, but he's here. He's 19. He's never been overseas before. He doesn't seem to speak English super well. Could be culture shock. Could just be nerves playing in an arena like this, in a foreign place. Like maybe he'll get better, but like it's scary. I mean, he did have very tough competition, which some people have noted. It's Jojo and Eminez in his first week.
Yeah, but then you lost Nain hard to Balulu Azir. And I watched Balulu Azir front row seat for the rest of the game, and he was not a good Azir player in those team fights.
Dude, Balulu fell off the cliff. I was like, damn, Balulu's gotten Azir through lane phase. And then you watch him like short the wall 2 or 3 times as he goes trying to find double lift, and you're like, oh, Balulu, I love you, man.
A bit literally at a loss for words at points. So yeah, when you have a 4K gold lead as Azir Jinx Milio and you throw, that's not good. But anyway, this is about Quid. We got solo killed by that player.
Quid had a good late game team fight or two. Okay.
Yeah, it was a good Busio flank he followed up on. But yeah, he still blew 2 ults when he didn't need to that last fight. Anyway, I think he needs more time.
Look at this nitpicker.
I mean, he needs more time, but like legitimately, if I'm an LCS team right now, I'm looking at TSM having 2 mid laners and how well Insanity's playing, and I'm really thinking to myself like, hey, can I get this player for cheap and actually like get some help? I think Insanity's like been in the middle of the pack mid laner, which is great for TSM. And if they're actually thinking about running 2 mid laners or running Ruby, why not? If that's your middle of the season fix, I think Insanity, he talks a lot. I love how he thinks about the game, actually. I think that like he has really creative takes on the game, which again, I really value on teams that are not top of the standings. He's got a huge champ pool. He likes to push, which Closer likes and might be missing out on right now because mid's not going well. So, just get Graves on 100 Thieves, just push and let Closer do his work, who knows?
What work is that?
Exactly. He needs the push, man.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it is true that their mid jungle has nothing going for him right now. And it's chicken or the eggy a little bit where, it's like, all right, do I really have to cover my mid getting dove at level 2 as a jungler? Like, I think anyone who jungles would be like, why the fuck do I need to do that again?
Yeah.
Like, what happened level 1? And the fact that Jojo, like Armeo, I think said in comms that Jojo said after like the first trade, like, I've won lane already, come here, And so like, no jungler wants to fuck their path up to cover a dive in the first 2 levels because of trading in lane. So but that was one game, and I haven't been. I think Closer's struggling.
I agree with you, Cubby, that if Quid's not looking too hot at the end of this week, it would make sense for Hunter T to look into seeing if Insanity is available. I bet you nothing.
I bet you they play Nuke Duck, if anything.
Yeah, you know what? I would not be
honestly
surprised.
Not terrible. It's not.
That is the most LCS thing ever. Is that North American talent is available, and for some reason, this player ends up stuck on the bench while 100T is like, no, we're going to use our retired European coach.
I will say that Nukeduck looked fine, and he does play a lot of league still, and is within the team. So I think there are some legitimate reasons for 100 Thieves to do that if they want to make that choice. But,
do you think it's legitimate over Insanity?
Yeah, because you don't have to pay another salary.
You've at least played with him once or twice before. You've talked. He's been around the org for a year. Insanity comes in. What if he's an awful teammate? What if he just starts throwing shit at everyone and freaking out? Can you trust Insanity? I don't think so. Why do you think they're looking to use Ruby instead of Insanity? It's probably because he's a terrible human being. Wow. I think we cracked the code.
Wow. All right. So we're going to take a quick break right now before we get into the next caller to talk about Black Friday in July. That's right. Sponsor of the show, Alienware, has Black Friday in July. You don't have to wait until November to get big savings on amazing Alienware products. You can get up to $800 off on select Alienware products. Black Friday in July starting June 29th, a couple days early, and going until July 20th. So that's this Thursday. Starting this Thursday, you can start to get these great deals. It's a great time, great moment to buy new, reliable tech. And so I think it's fantastic I have a friend, former roommate of mine, she reached out and she was asking about, should I grab a monitor? I need a new monitor. I said, first off, Alienware monitors. That's where it's at. Go take a look at that. Second, wait a couple days, because June 29th is whenever you want to start heading over to alienware.com/Travis. You purchase through alienware.com/Travis. You support the show. A portion of that comes back to support TGI. And you look at these amazing deals that they've got on reliable tech from Alienware. Again, up to $800 off on select Alienware products. It's a great time to be looking at their products. And while you're over there, take a look at the Alienware M18. Alienware's most powerful laptop. We got one recently. We've been using it at the LCS. We got compliments this week in the press room for how big the monitor or the screen is on it. It's got a beautiful display, powered by NVIDIA GeForce RTX 40 series graphics. Either way, thank you so much to Alienware for sponsoring the show. Be sure to check out Black Friday in July. If you're listening to the show and it's Thursday, hit that link in the description, alienware.com/Travis. Check out some Alienware products and support the show. All right.
More importantly, it's my birthday, June 29th. I think that's actually where this deal came from, is they heard it was my birthday, and Alienware was like, let's do something special for this.
That's probably true. They were like, Black Friday in July, so that starts on the 1st, right? And then somebody looked at the calendar and they said, wait, it's Marksy's birthday on the 29th. What are we going to do for that? What kind of promotional opportunity can we do for that? And they're like, well,
wow,
what if we just start Black Friday in July early and get it going? Mark has left the channel. I don't have to continue on with that lie that I'm perpetuating to stoke his ego. All right. Thank you to Alienware for sponsoring, but also thank you to the following subs right now. Tom Shu with the 55 months, Kanoke, Sneeben, Zenrock, Perchy99, and Ben the Last Airbender. We got rawnblade here. Rawnblade, where are you calling from?
From Sydney, Australia.
Sydney, Australia. What do you want to talk about on the show?
So my take is that more so than in a while, LCS has a bunch of great personalities, player personalities specifically right now, and they're a really good basis to hype up the league.
Hey, I like this take. What personalities stand out to you?
It kind of just feels like every team has at least one. Well, at least enough teams have at least one. Obviously, Cloud9 has a couple with Sven, you put a microphone in front of him, he just immediately starts, producing the goods. Fudge is pretty similar. And even Blab is someone who's been a bit more quiet, but I feel like he's, kind of coming into his own a bit. Actually, all of them. Anyway, Cloud9's very solid. Then you've got the Vulcan Ayla beef is pretty fun, but Vulcan's been pretty consistent for a while. Jojo Pion as well is starting to I feel like he was pretty downbeat for a while, and now he's kind of starting to talk shit a bit more. And
he had a rough spring, I think, was what made his ego go away.
Potentially.
Yeah.
But even last year, I felt like he's not a content machine, right? I can tell that everyone is desperate for him to trash talk as much as Double F back in the day. And it feels like that's starting to happen now, whereas maybe that wasn't as confident in the past. And I guess I just feel like there was this period where post the OG days where like people had to have personalities because otherwise why would anyone watch? Then everyone got like hyper serious about the game. I kind of blame Yogson for leading this NNA of like, or maybe it's really Faker's fault for not, being a trash talker or whatever, but like, I feel like everyone just got very like, I'm a student of the game. I just take it very seriously. I don't go on social media. I just watch VODs, play the game, and I respect all my opponents and I respect everyone else in the league. And now we're finally getting back to people being like I'm good at this game and all these other people suck. And, just, and not in like a negative way, I think just in a fun way. And so, I think there's a real strong basis at the moment that like in any team, you can pretty much find someone to hype up and put in front of the camera and they'll deliver something for you.
No, I think that's a really good call out. And I agree with you. I mean, it's been really fun. I think the way I would describe it as somebody who has to create content with all these guys is that the highs are high and the lows are low. And I'm curious how Mark feels about that statement, because I think that you get a lot of players who just will give you their all and be entertaining and super fun, and you get a lot of players who are just so stoic and don't want to say anything. And that's always kind of been like that a little bit, but I feel like perhaps it's very much like that these days. But you don't really need the whole team to be particularly charismatic to create fandom around the players, right? You need just a couple stars to really hype up. So I don't know. What do you think, Mark?
I don't think it had anything to do with players exactly. I think
yes.
I think there's a case to be made that players back in the day were legitimately like great entertainers because that they had to stream to make money. There was a cash incentive in some ways to become this good person to watch. But I don't think it's like that right now. I think the reason that players seem better now than in recent years is because this broadcast has just done a better job of showing it off. I can say that like 4 years ago, I didn't really think about how I could show off a certain player's personality the way that I do now. There were times where we were remote with COVID, or we were more like traditional sportsy, where you weren't like, hey, let's strap a GoPro to this guy's head and see what he does. Like I think there's a lot more attempts to just find ways to show off the players, whereas before it was like, yeah, maybe they'll join the analyst desk segment to break down this game, and like we didn't really guest cast with them. We didn't do a lot of stuff. So I think it's more on the broadcast not getting their personalities out well, a couple of years ago.
I will also go even down a bigger rabbit hole, or maybe more conspiracy about this, where the wall that you're mentioning in the call is when a lot more money came into the space, a lot more people were involved, and people were very serious about NA trying to perform to keep that money and appease VCs and do really well. I think now viewership numbers aren't quite as high. Money isn't quite as high behind the scenes, and people are more apt to just be like, hey, screw it. Like, this is fun. Do it for content, right? And I think it's like a little bit less serious from the orgs as well, where I think it's actually pushed players to actually just kind of go out there and get it. Like, they kind of realize that, like, there's more incentive for them too, because like the money in the space isn't quite as much, and they realize that if they are able to monetize their standings in terms of like what they do on Twitter or Twitch or YouTube, then
you're saying the players feel this way, Cubby.
I mean, not as much like the players. I think that it's like more from like org side, but then also players are starting to realize too, like as they get older, that they can take more of this into their hands and like use this as an opportunity to grow themselves. I think that the crop in the middle, some of them didn't realize that quite as much, and I don't think the orgs really helped them get there. Like orgs need to learn how to do that too.
I think I think the two things here are, one, we're also not talking about COVID, where it was just really hard for 2 years to make any content around good personalities. But two, I think the other thing is you mentioned the teams starting to feel this way, Cubby. I actually do think that players are not as obtuse as we think of them, that we think them to be, and I think a lot of them know that viewership is down, and I think they are able to think to themselves, oh, well, why is it that people are caring less or rooting less? And it's like, oh, because the players aren't as interesting. Oh, I'm a player, maybe I should be more interesting.
Yeah.
I think they finally get there after several long moments. But yeah, Mark, you were gonna say?
Well, I was gonna say we also talked, you and I, Travis, like off camera, I'm pretty sure, about a bunch of people who sell content when teams were like doing this a lot. are not the people who know how to make good content. So like teams just made docuseries and that's it. But then they also didn't want to air the dirty laundry that you used to in like the old docuseries.
Yep.
And so it's just worse content than it used to be. And a lot of team content became very sterile and boring and not at all like an honest behind the scenes look at life or anything. So like
you had a situation where the only content that was going out was sponsored content, right? Where like a salesperson had said, oh, hey, company that does data stuff, we're going to pitch you on the idea of these players that are doing data breakdown, you know, and like, again, to your point, Mark, the content was not...
With Microsoft Teams, we can see that the support CSD is better.
I was not calling out, you know, I would love to have Microsoft as a partner. We could do some really great things with them. I'm not by any means besmirching...
No, I'm flaming the content team who made that, Travis, not Microsoft team.
Oh my God.
Yes.
I forgot about that.
You don't even blame the content team. It's the sales team that sells a product to a brand without... I think teams, and I see this with Riot too, by the way, sometimes, where the content teams are clearly not in the room when a lot of these segments and concepts are being created, and then they're being handed this thing that was created by a non-content person and the sales and a company that decided to buy it, and then they have to create it, and it's just not as good. It's not as good. So you really need people that can create cool stuff to do cool things.
Roundabout way of saying to the caller, maybe players were slightly less interesting in like the middle LCS years, but there's probably a lot of other stuff contributing too.
I think you guys put it in more eloquent ways what I was trying to say with like what happened when the money came in, like with more specifics.
Cubby, what you're saying is when the money came in, they could afford people to do media coaching, and now they can't afford those people anymore, so the players actually talk normally.
Maybe, yeah, who knows?
But I think, rawnblade, I think yours is a good call out though, right? Which is a reminder to, look, there are people, more and more I see them every day, where they seem to get like erotic pleasure from shitting on the LCS. You just see them show up in like Discords or Reddit threads or Twitch chats where like, you know, it could just, it's like, oh, hey, I really like that segment that LCS did. And somebody goes, oh, but that segment is such a cringe attempt at saving this dead league where like the segment might be good, but LCS players are going to fucking suck when they get to Worlds. And oh my God, no one's watching this dead league and blah, blah, blah. And it's just like,
keep going, I'm close.
Yeah, and it's it's like what? Where did this come from? And, like,
oh my God.
It's a weird thing where you could just talk about anything like you know, oh, I really like this dunk tank thing or something like that, and people will be like, well, I hope you like dunks because that's what's going to happen to the NA teams when they go to Worlds, blah, blah, blah. And it's a weird kind of one-track mind. And that's not to say that there aren't criticisms and that you can't come out and be like, yeah, you know, North America's like, let's talk about expectations for Worlds and stuff. But it's like you see it instantly. You feel it instantly whenever you see one of these comments because it's just like they're diverting something to like the most lame, boring talking point that is completely irrelevant. And it's bizarre.
And I will say there are the people who do that, and you can almost feel like the intent that you're talking about, where there's other people who are like, I don't like this, man. Like, I miss when it was just about the games or the, like, you know, there are people who legitimately liked the other style that the LCS had in the past who don't like this new stuff. But, like, I feel like you can tell the difference between, like, the boomer who doesn't like the new stuff or doesn't connect with them, and then also like the edgelord who's like, this is cringe and lame, idiots. Like, those two are different people to me, even if they're both saying they don't like the new thing.
Yeah, I think exactly. I think there are people who come out and say like, oh, I don't like this content because I miss when they were doing more game analysis or whatever. And that's somebody who I'm like, okay, I get it, this is reasonable. But the person that's just like, lol, NA sucks, I'm like, all right, what does this have to do with the segment? But all of this to say, rawnblade, I'm happy you are pointing this out because there is a lot of negativity, and just pointing out that, like, yeah, we do have players that are fun and interesting and all that stuff is a very good call out. So thank you so much for the call. Anything you want to shout out before we go on to the next caller?
Oh damn! I didn't think about shoutouts. I guess just shout out LCS. Like I feel like it's been week after week of Doomerism, and I'm like, are we watching the same thing? It's like the players are fun, the teams are fun, the show is fun. I don't anyway. So and shout out to you guys for taking up several hours of my week every week. So spend more time with you than I do most of my friends. So appreciate it.
As it should be.
Me too, sadly.
All right, thanks so much for the call. I'll catch you later. Isn't this spending time with your friends, Mark? Isn't that what we're doing right now?
No.
Oh.
Yeah, all my friends pay me to appear. You're right.
I see. Okay, maybe you get the next caller. Thank you to Bod Kips and Shavul and so many things for the subs. Really appreciate it. Mark is off grabbing the next caller, and he'll be back very shortly. We've got about 30 minutes left in the show, and we got Gyro Joestar. Is that how you say it?
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay, I'm just gonna call you Joe. Joe, where are you calling from?
Houston, Texas.
Houston, Texas. What do you want to talk about on the show?
My take is that EG is going to finish in first place at the end of the regular season and playoffs, and that people are underestimating their trajectory.
Man, we are getting a lot of EG talk calls tonight. And not as many FlyQuest ones, which I'm kind of surprised there'd be more there. But we're hopping on the positivity train.
I think that unless there's like haters of a team, they're not there to talk about. Like we didn't get I was looking for a 100 Thieves call. The reason I brought it up is I didn't find it because I just think like when teams are doing shit, they just like don't want to be here. They don't want to come on this show.
Who wants to talk about FlyQuest right now? Come on, where are our callers?
I guess maybe what's true is FlyQuest doesn't have many haters. Whenever TSM's not doing well, everyone loves to call in. But maybe FlyQuest doesn't have the haters that celebrate him. All right.
They haven't been good long enough, yeah.
Joe, why don't you elaborate a little bit on your take? Why do you think that they're going to do so well?
I think that they had a lot of changes, and I think JoJo being their only retaining player and him slumping at the end of the year means, or the end of the last split, means that they really were kind of below most teams. So I think the fact that they all came together, started scrimming, and were able to not only get to be decent, but to be at the top of the LCS after playing most of the quote-unquote better teams besides C9, means that they also have a lot of room to still grow. Like they've only been together for a small amount of time. So I think that the hands-wise, they have already passed the hands check. I mean, if you look at the CSD, which is usually a pretty good indicator of how well someone's doing, Unforgiven and JoJo are almost always like just up 10, 15 CS for no reason, it seems like. So yeah, I mean, I think they have the hands and the talent, and they are all super hungry, which is also really important, which is why I edged them over C9. I think that they want it more.
So it's like they have more room to grow, and they're already tied with C9, who we've perhaps seen what they are capable of, or they're already close to their ceiling, I guess is what you would say.
Yeah, I think C9, I mean, it's not probably a good thing to say this, but I think C9 doesn't care nearly as much about proving themselves in LCS. I think they're going to do really well because they're really good, but I think they're kind of really looking towards Worlds and trying. That's when we're going to see them like in the same state that EG is now, of trying really hard and stuff.
All right. So let's go with you, Cubby, because I've been throwing to Mark first for some of these. What do you think of this? Do you think EG can win the whole split?
I'm usually in the camp where they play C9 next week, and they haven't beaten C9 yet, so I'm going to still favor C9. And I think that C9 has been playing better games. I think that part of the reason they dropped the game they did this week is that they still are playing Yuumi. I think Yuumi was not good on this patch. I think Milio is still playable, not Yuumi. And then for me, EG, I mean, it's kind of funny because like I was talking with EG like while they were playing their game on day 3, and they're like,
"Is that legal?" I'm pretty sure if they're playing their game, you can't be talking to them, Cubby.
No, like okay, well the staff, I know the org,
okay.
But they're like, how are we 5-1? Like they're like, how are we winning these games? It feels like teams are just kind of running into us, they're winning, which was pretty funny. I do think
frauds.
I don't think they're frauds. I just think
Joe just said all the other teams are frauds.
I think that JoJo is leading the league in gold at 15. I think he's over 1K in mid, which is ridiculous. So JoJo has been better than everyone else, but I need to see more out of EG still. I have high hopes for this roster. I said on my own podcast, Raising NA, that I thought that they would go to Worlds after week 1. That was my overreaction. And have a lot of faith in Armeo and Ayla. I think that they're a really solid duo. Like you say that they don't like this team hasn't played together a lot yet, but those guys played together for 2 years, and I think they work. I've seen them work together like full hand. I got to sit in their practice, and I think very highly of those two. So I'm hoping that the team can kind of continue to perform around them. I think Unforgiven. Excited to see him go up against Berserker because Berserker is the guy to beat in the bot lane if you're in the LCS. So I want to see how they stack up. But yeah, it should be fun. But EG looks good. I don't know if they're going to be that good, but yeah, we'll see.
I think the first round robin has had a lot of surprises. I think throwing out whatever's going on with FlyQuest, I think Golden Guardians are still very good. They had a bit of a rough first week. They were still trying to play Lucian Nami. They played tough opponents. I think they played C9 and EG that week, and EG, as we know now, is quite good. So the fact that they're 4-2 is like not that surprising. If they end the first round robin with like, I don't know, 6-3 record or 5-4 record, which would be a little disappointing, but like I think that they're going to be fine. I'm quite confident in them to keep doing well, and it makes it an interesting race for first. That, like, to your point, I think C9 holds that title until they kind of get knocked off it, either because they start slumping and dropping more games, or someone just rips off a better win streak than them. Otherwise, I think you can kind of just assume that they're the better one. But that said, I do think EG have a title like potential, because it does. There's not that like a clear number 2 to me currently. And I will say the premise of this call, I don't ultimately agree with, even though I agree they have title potential. Like, I don't think getting good at League of Legends is like a super linear thing. I'm not sure if getting good at anything is that linear, but like especially not League of Legends as a team. Some people, like, they load up and they see the game the same way immediately, and it's like sick. They just have that kind of like inbuilt understanding of how they want to play the games and team fights out and drafts and all these things. Some teams really need to work at that. And just because like they started hot, it doesn't mean that they suddenly have a higher ceiling just because they've had less time to ramp up in that sense. So like there's teams that I coached where we really struggled and we did have to ramp up, but like we were struggling. I don't know if we just like started hot that like we would have also just continued up and to the right, given that there's like these patches that come in and people slump or don't slump. Like the thing is people adapt too. So like you don't know who's going to be a threat on EG through the first week and a half or 2. Like they've played for 2 fucking weeks publicly, Like, yeah. All right, now we know that we have a bit of data. Jojo has the highest jungle proximity in the league. He has 25% jungle procs. A quarter of the early game, Armeo is in his back pocket, hugging his ass. So if you're going to do anything around mid lane, you know this now. And smart teams will start like changing how they play, changing what they ban, changing their approach to the entire game. And if it turns out that the only way EG can win is when Jojo hulks out, Jojo's averaging like 20 CSD right now in like every single game. It's not just like he had one monster.
He's fisting, yeah.
Yeah, so like if he falls off, like what happens to EG? Like you can't guarantee that Jojo wins every fucking lane phase by 20 CSD. That's not going to stick long term, unless he really is just like the GOAT.
I jokingly told Raz that EG are the Miami Heat and Jojo is Jimmy Butler. It's like everyone else around them is like kind of like pieces like putting together. Like Unforgiven's the only one that's like really proven, but it's kind of like can they make it work? And I think Jojo has to be him if they want to actually go as far as hold the trophy at the end of the split. So
yeah. Anyways, all that is to say, like, I agree that they're really good, but there are these other shoes that could drop.
I agree with you, Joestar, on one big thing, which is why I disagree with you on most of your take or your broader take, which is I think it is very true that EG is probably putting all of their heart into these games right now, and C9, there's a good chance, are not doing the same. And I think it's because C9 probably feels really cocky. They feel really confident. They're coming off MSI. They know they want to pace themselves. They anticipate going to Worlds, etc. On the other hand, you have EG, where Jojo knows he has to prove himself. Like, you can go watch the interview that I did with him today to see the conversation and sort of where his head was at and how he knew that he was sucking in spring and needed to come back. You have Revenge, who's like, oh, thank God the shackles are off. I could potentially win. You got a bunch of players that are just wanting to do everything they can to win. I think the thing is like that's not going to be the same. That gap in enthusiasm and commitment is not going to be the same in playoffs. Like if you do get EG versus C9 on the finals stage in New Jersey, you aren't going to get a situation where like C9's like, meh, whatever, we're going to Worlds. Like they're gonna be, they dropped that first game to EG. They're all in on the next one, right? And with the double elimination bracket, all this stuff, like I just don't see a world where like C9 keeps taking things as casually as they are now, assuming they're taking things casually, which I think is a fair assumption. And so I think that's where things are going to happen. And that's setting aside the fact that, like, yeah, these EGs played 6 games together. They're all best of ones. Like, there's a world where they play 5 games in a single match in playoffs, right? Like, everything's going to change whenever you get into these best of series. So I don't know. I think it would be a really cool storyline if EG does end up winning. But I think I'm just nowhere near the confidence level that you have, in part because of one of the points that you raised, right? So either way, no, I do appreciate the call, though. Anything that you would respond to before we give you your shout out?
Yeah, I guess my quick response, the thing that I would like to draw attention and what gave me the most confidence in UG was in particular their TL game, the Baron play, where they basically started Baron, and pretty much every co-streamer, everyone was like, what are they doing? Why are they starting Baron? They're like half HP. And then they like five-man ace TL for free. And I feel like that decisiveness and that aggression, like the goal gap was like a 1,500, nothing significant. Isn't really something that I see, especially so early on, from any NA teams pretty much ever. So I think that combined with the fact that I just straight up think that JoJo and Unforgiven are like probably 2 of the best players in the league right now, is why I have faith in UG. But that would be my only counterpoint. You never know. You never know out here.
No, I do, but I do appreciate it. Anything you want to shout out before we go on to our next caller?
Shout out Alienware, and that's it. That's all I got.
Yeah. Thank you so much for the call. We'll catch you next time.
Thank you.
All right. We are on to our next caller. Mark is off to grab him.
Love some of the positive fan takes we've had. No one wants to be too negative today.
Yeah. No, I know.
Embrace positivity in NA. That's new. But everything's been weird the last few weeks.
Hotline League does have some of the more positive takes usually from callers, but yeah, I agree. Hey, if you are watching this live right now, please do me a favor. Move your cursor over your screen, like where I'm talking. See if a little purple crown pops up. Click that, and then I'm just trying to test and see if this works. But if it says Prime Sub, please click that. I just need to see if that works. Kaz and Anna's here. Kaz, where are you calling from?
Vancouver, BC.
Vancouver, BC. I'm going to be there. Actually, this is a good time for me to call it. I'm going to be there in 2 weeks for less than 2 weeks. I'm going to be there in like 10 days for a wedding. And that Sunday night, I'm looking to see. I might be trying to hit up an LGS and see if people want to play Magic with me. But what do you want to talk about in the show?
Okay. So this is for all the FlyQuest, how do you say it, fans? My take was that this FlyQuest 06 start to the split is the most disappointing start in LCS history.
Ooh. Oh, wow. Okay, go ahead. Elaborate.
Yeah, so I've got a couple of kind of points, but I'll start with the first one. What were we saying about Vikla and Prince in spring? We were hyping them up so much, and
I think some were saying Prince was the best import ever to North America.
Yeah, like what I'm saying is, like, we come to summer, it's supposed to be the best. What's going on?
I mean, some people said that shit. I called that out immediately when I read those things on the dive. I called that out here. I was like, you are trolling if after 9 weeks you're saying, or like 4 weeks you're saying this. So from that perspective, I never bought in that much, but I think it's an interesting thought experiment. Is there any team that's been more disappointing off the rip? I can think of one, but I wonder if anyone else can point any out.
I'm trying to think of teams. Didn't Cloud9 have a split where they were hyped well and then they just did terribly for like the first half of the split and then they climbed back out? Was that?
Well, they did the big benching. Is that what you're talking about? Where they?
Yeah. Well, the benching actually worked out okay for them. I thought there was another year. Like wasn't one of the perks splits a disaster?
TSM Yellowstar is a good shout.
Yeah.
Sword Art was also pretty disappointing when he came over, but the team had a lot
But
of
that's
weird
individuals.
pieces around it.
Yeah.
No, that team was fine though.
Yeah.
Like they played mid to late game really well, like around Dragon still too.
I'm trying to
Like,
think of a time
they
where you had
positives to
a
them.
team that was expected to place top 2 and then
Couldn't win a
goes
game.
0-6 in the first 3 weeks.
Who were failed super teams?
So
Was
the
it
one that jumps to mind for me is a
NRG
team
with
like
GBM.
but was NRG really a super team?
No,
Really?
but they tried.
Yeah.
They tried.
They tried. But like, so the one that jumps to my mind is 2020 Spring TSTL. Is that the one where Double F said Spring Split doesn't matter and entered that team into 9th?
Yeah. Yeah. That is a very big one. So people are saying C9 2020. What was the C9? Because that's, I think,
that
I
was a
remember
collapse.
COVID year.
That was a collapse. They
Yeah, that was the summer collapse.
They did not start poorly and then become good or anything.
They murdered Spring.
They were like, they were like undefeated in Spring. Basically, they won. They lost a couple games. They absolutely ran Spring, and then they started the first round robin. I think again like 8-1 or some shit, and then fell off a cliff.
Okay.
But that was not to start.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the most disappointing collapse for me is still that 17-1 Immortals team that went to playoffs. Played
Yeah, but that's a
Marksman top and got
collapse.
rolled. Yeah,
We're talking about, like-
that's the biggest collapse, not a start. Yeah.
Yeah. I
think this take might actually be right. Is there a worst?
It's bad.
The problem is, it's really like it might not be true. It would be easy for this to be wrong, if only because you don't remember when a team starts so bad and then they like recover and stomp, right? And like the same thing could happen here, where FlyQuest turns things around and they just start shitting on everyone for the rest of the split. So like I wouldn't be surprised if this has happened before. It's just not memorable because then the team eventually makes Worlds and everybody's like completely purges from their brain that the rough start happened that way. So
how bad was the start for 100 Thieves when they decided to bench Someday for Fake God? Like somehow magically fix the team there.
It was kind of bad, but I also remember they had like Ryu, right?
Yeah.
Or was it Saligo mid? No, they brought Ryu back. It was Saligo mid.
Yeah, they brought Ryu
right?
back. Yeah.
Because they need an import slot, so they bench Someday, bring in Fake God so they can get a better mid laner.
Yeah.
But like, were people really stoked about that team with Saligo mid?
Back then, Saligo was the Vlad player. Now he's evolved.
To the point about FlyQuest, though, was like all of them were hypothetically like top 3-ish in their position last split. Vikla maybe being the odd man out, but like everyone else seemed very good, and they're all just terrible now, and they haven't won a game. That's 100 Thieves team to that point too. I bet they won a game in their first 6. What year was that?
I mean, this is like borderline worst starts of summer, because like I think no teams went 09, right? And this is a team that everyone universally had top 3. And we're sitting going in like we're 06. Optic with Crown, they still won games though off his TF. I remember he was playing like Rod Comet TF, and I was disgusted by it, but they won. I don't know which split.
I also remember not believing in Optic. I remember I was one of the people who was like, I don't think they're going to be that good just because they got Crown, y'all. I think I was a hater on that team, and then I ended up being right about it.
All right, so FlyQuest plays this week. Is a bit of a tangent, and since this is our FlyQuest take, they play TL, they play NRG, and they play Immortals.
They're getting a win this week. They're if they lose to Immortals, I feel like that is just like if they walk out of this week 09, like what do you do as FlyQuest? Like it's almost to the point where like you have to change something to change something. I think that like they can realistically go 2-1. Like I think is 2-1 the expectation though, like after the start. Because I think NRG until like their last game against C9 has had games where they have looked equally as like bad.
The energy not looking too hot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So first things first, 100 Thieves went 1-3 to start in that spring split where they had to drop Someday for Fake God.
Okay.
But also for this team, like at this point, like I don't think Immortals is great, but they're not like absolute dog water. Like Tactical can play well.
The Tactical's playing much better this split. Yeah.
Yes, Solo's fine topside. Balulu has his good games. Like there's times where you roll the dice and things come up good for Immortals, and they're actually kind of hard to beat. So like if FlyQuest is still playing like dog water, like yeah, they could realistically drop either that game or the NRG one and be 1-2. And even if you win 2, you're still 2-7, which is like basically out of any significant threat.
You can build something off that, and I know that like FlyQuest from Scrimbucks at least are doing well, and like they're scrimming more. So like they're working hard to like get out of it and make sure like they're better on stage. That's like the weird thing to everyone. What's the change? I don't know. It's like sacrifice the coach. Who knows? Everyone in the chat's gonna say like promote Winsome. I'm telling you guys right now. I don't think this is realistic to happen, but for me, Yuji and Masu are the better performers on their challengers teams. Like those are the two pieces where I think moving forward, like they actually Masu is gonna be an LCS player next split.
Do either of them speak Korean?
Yuji is from Mongolia, likely doesn't speak Korean. Masu does not. But
I think there's a consideration that maybe Prince needs
Winsome for Korean
support player.
It could be.
It could also be, and one thing maybe is true with Winsome. I don't know his personality at all, but like maybe he's just like a really easygoing guy, and will just like make things work from a like personality management standpoint. I've heard that like Ayla has strong opinions on the game. I'm sure Vulcan does, and like sometimes, much like I was saying with the TL stuff last week, like addition by subtraction, it's like just having someone who's going to go with the flow and do what Prince wants or whatever. And I don't know, like maybe it does help.
That is true, and everyone's different. I will say that Ayla and Unforgiven have meshed pretty well early on, so that is different.
Yeah. It's not to say that it was bad. It's just that he had.
But I think there is a fair consideration here, where it's like Ayla came in and everybody kind of dogged on Ayla, and then most prominently Vulcan. And then Vulcan comes over and has the same situation as Ayla, and you start to go, okay, maybe it's not the support that's the component here that is like the problem. Not to say Prince is quote unquote a problem, but perhaps like Winsome was the opportunity there. I mean, people seem to be pretty critical of Vikla. Is there a world where we were talking about Insanity earlier? Is there a world where we get Fly Insanity?
Who knows? I don't know. I really don't know like what mid laner you can bring in that fixes things for Fly. I think it's that's one where you have to like live with it and hope it gets better, because it has not been good. But yeah,
you live with it. You don't think you make any changes in mid?
I mean, I like looking at their challenger squad again. I don't think Spyrax would be like ready. Like the two players that I actually think are the strongest in the team are Yuji and Masu, and I don't expect either of them to step up. Just given like who are they would be replacing. That's the tough thing about Fly. Again, like it seems like everything behind the scenes is like fine. They just aren't winning stage games, and they look terrible in stage games. Like that, the clip of LS Malding, like them hitting that turret, is so funny to me, because it's like, again, it's like who is calling things in mid game. Like it's just like it's almost like the TL problem from last split. Like they always said like they just win scrims so hard, and then like on stages it got lost in the middle, right? Like that's almost what it feels like for FlyQuest. Like it's not like they are throwing games early. It's just like mid game happens and it's just like 5 players playing a different game.
Yeah, I feel like the more likely thing is what you said. If this seems like 1-8 or something, and or even 2-7, but not looking good,
change coach.
Unless the players love Song, which is possible. I think like you just like have to reset environment somehow, hope for a honeymoon phase in the second round robin and rip off a bunch of wins.
It's so sad, but like that's the tough part about this team. It's like, what do you change, right? It's really it's like actually really hard to like figure out like, hey, what makes this work, right?
Yeah.
Sack the coach. The tale as old as time, baby.
Yeah, especially because like the strongest part of that challenge roster again is Masu. Like Masu will be an LCS player next split if he keeps up at this rate for sure. So that's pretty, like, I don't think you change out him for, the star, like Prince is the star and the guy, right? So that's tough.
I have a name for you guys, if you guys are interested.
What is it, Bjergsen? Get him back with Spica?
No. You're asking who needs to be subbed out if it continues to go to Shed. It's clear. It's Spica. Think about it. That, everybody talks about the 9-man sleep. Nobody asked, was that a good move to go in there? Everybody else wasn't expecting that engage from Spica back at Worlds, the famous TSM 9-man sleep. Nobody asked, was Spica correct in that move?
A lot of people actually did back then. I don't know if you remember the discourse around it, because initially Double Lift defended that take by saying that like they couldn't go in there because like the Senate shroud, and then a bunch of other people were like, "Bro, you absolutely could have gone in there," and it was a whole big discussion. I think that's a pretty tinfoil hat theory. I appreciate it, but I think people did talk about that play.
Spica in the chat says, "My bad for trying to win there."
Wait, he just said that?
Yes. Well, I gotta say, my plan the entire time.
You learned
Kaz,
your fucking lessons, Spica. Stop trying to win.
My plan, Kaz, is to completely disagree with you on this. How dare you suggest Spica should be out? That is the one shining star of that team, and I completely think that Spica is the last player you would remove out from that team.
The one shining USA flag. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes,
Travis?
exactly. Anyway, thank you. God bless America. 4th of July. All right, Kaz, what do you want to shout out before we go on to our last call tonight?
Just want to shout out TGI. You guys are basically the only thing keeping me interested in the LCS at this point. It's really hard to watch.
Do you mean the broadcast is hard to watch? Like,
what is hard to watch?
No, FlyQuest specifically. So
okay. You're a FlyQuest fan.
I like the rest of LCS, but it's just FlyQuest. Like, it's really hard to watch the games.
Gotcha.
It has been a bummer to watch them start 06.
When do I start? I've never taken money from Riot. When do I start blackmailing them and being like, listen, I'm at least keeping 15K of these viewers on this 32K stream. All right, thank you, Kaz, for the call. Anything you want to shout out? Oh wait, you shout out TGI. Thank you so much. As my brain's falling apart now that we're 2 minutes over the time. But we'll catch you next time. Thanks for the call.
Good night.
Yeah. All right, we got our last caller coming in. We got Dr. Professor Sergeant Mr. J. Thank you for the sub. Polly550 gifted a sub. Tara Prawn, Poop Hubert, and more. And by the way, Chlora Strokeless, gotta say, you're not counting the people who watch the VOD or listen to the podcast. We got Michael Don here. Michael, where are you calling from?
Calling from middle of nowhere, Utah, soon to be somewhere, Utah.
Ooh, you're moving.
Yep.
Or or are they just doing a lot of development in your area?
I'm moving soon.
I just heard Rafa through my wall go Utah Poggers as he is from Utah. So yeah.
Well, Mark once famously got excited and asked a very interesting question. Whatever he learned, Rafa was from Utah. What do you want to talk about on the show, Michael?
What is interesting about that? I think it's a normal question.
Okay, I am here because I think Revenge is ready to be upgraded from underrated to just the best LCS top laner.
The best LCS top laner. All right.
How can he be the best LCS top laner when Rich is in the LCS and he's the best player in the world?
All right, Mike.
And plays top lane.
Michael, go ahead and expand on your Revenge thing before we address Mark's HOTS fandom.
Sure. Okay. So we haven't even finished the first full round robin yet, so it is a little premature. But I think Revenge has just been doing a very good job in relatively isolated 1v1s based on Armeo and JoJo's playstyle. He has mostly been playing tanks, but his average CSD is positive, and he's 50-50 ahead or behind. So that means even when he's playing tanks, he's usually ahead, which is honestly just kind of disgraceful to all the other shops in the LCS. He's just better.
Mark, who are our contestants to compete for this spot right now? Fudge?
Dig, Summit. Yes, Dig. Rich, Summit, and Fudge. I feel like the other three up there right now.
All right.
Yeah. So Summit is an interesting point. It could have just been a bad game when they just played, because I think TL personally is a better team at the moment, but they just had a bad game. Copium. It's fine. But he was actually, if I remember right, he was pretty consistently like 10 CS up over Summit in the Gnar Renekton matchup, which is usually considered pretty Gnar favored.
All right. This is, I love this take because people know that I've been championing Revenge as a man.
Oh shit, Licorice! I am so dumb. I totally forgot Licorice is popping off as well.
He's been playing good this split actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
That Yone game was pretty hot. Yeah.
But I mean, a lot of people have known for a while that I've been like, get Revenge out of Immortals to see what he can do. So the fact that this conversation is starting within the first 2 weeks, I think is cool. Cubby, how outlandish is this conversation? Do you think it's a fair one to be having, or are we getting ahead of ourselves?
I mean, I think that he was underrated because for me, he was a middle of the pack top laner on a bad team, and for me, he's now a middle of the pack top laner on a good team, and I think that's how it's going to stay. So
that is such a boring but correct answer.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that Revenge right now is like, he's a role player, and I think that that's probably what he's going to be in the team, especially if they keep on just playing through mid, which is a winning formula so far. And with how the meta is, it's still bot laners are really strong. I think Revenge has done his job, which is what you need to do. So I can't really criticize him for that, but I would still think that like Summit, Licorice, Rich, I would even make an argument that like Someday is still performing okay. Like I think that like I'd put him like on the same level as that. Like Fudge goes above him, so he's middle of the pack. Like I think he drops to Summit, Licorice, Rich at the moment. Impact I expect to scale, so he does his job, and that's good.
Fudge is also overrated.
He's still okay.
He's good, but I think Blabber covers up a lot of his weaknesses really well.
Oh god, this is such a good take right at the end of the show. I agree actually what you said about Someday in the sense that like the team's kind of on fire around him, and I think if you put, anyone in that situation who's not like insano, you're gonna struggle too. And I actually also agree with the caller that Fudge is. I don't think I can say he's overrated. I just don't think he's having like his best split by any notion. I think he's
randomly died
fine.
a little bit too much.
Yeah, he's still fine. He's not playing outright bad.
I'd still put him in the top 3, I think.
Yeah, he went for me like the de facto best top laner in the LCS, like on and off for the past couple of years. And I mean he was mid for a little bit, so he couldn't have been then. But like he's been really good for a long period of time. I feel like this is one of his weaker splits in recent memory, but it's still good. It's not like he's bad. I think it's actually a really hot fight for like best top laner. I think if I had to, we were talking about this on the dive earlier today, but like if we were going to do it right now, I would probably go like Rich, Licorice, Fudge, maybe in that order. Or no, Summit. Shit, like I don't even think Fudge is on there. This split right now.
I think at the moment for me, it's Summit, Licorice, and Rich, not in that order, but those 3 are the first 3, and then whatever order you pick between that, I'd probably go Summit, Rich, Licorice. But I think after that, I think those 3 have to be your first 3 based on what we've seen in the first third of the season. Then you go to the rest.
Yeah. So to that point, like it's hard for Revenge to punch in, given that he is role playing a little bit right now, where he's just Scion tank duty. It was nice to see him play the Renekton, but I think if he wants to break into that conversation, which he can, I think it's possible for him to break into top 3. He needs to kind of do what Licorice did last split when he gets off this like weak side supporter guy and starts having interesting weak side counters again. Because I know he can do that. I think what really elevated Golden Guardians was when Licorice stepped up and started playing the Gwens, the Casantes, the Yones, whatever it is. Like once he started expanding his champion pool, Rumble, and these things, it brought a new dimension, and that's something that I think EG will need come playoff time. So Revenge can go up this list if he keeps playing well on the tanks, but also has like this wrinkle.
Rumble should be played in the new patch, by the way. I think Rumble's being really slept on right now.
I also think Revenge has been better in team fights than a lot of the other top laners have. I think Summit and Rich have notably been better in team fights, but then I think Revenge is also really good there too. Like he just, for some reason, top laners in LCS are just bad at like positioning well in fights and actually buying space. Revenge is actually doing that really well. Like if you watch the Team Liquid game, like he, like near the end, he instantly dives onto Yon when Core has that sick engage in bot lane towards the end. Like he instantly dives on Yon and he like single-handedly saves the fight there. Because if he didn't like flip that switch instantly, then Team Liquid probably just would have aced that fight.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that that's definitely a strength of Revenges right now.
Well, I guess we'll have to see how things continue to progress over the course of the split. But regardless, I'm
C9
excited.
versus EG this week. We'll find out.
Yeah, that is actually so hype. I really like that we have that. Which day is it? It is on Friday, is it? Yeah, opening match on Friday.
Yeah.
I do think one of the fun parts. One of the fun parts about that is that I remember when I hopped in the LCS week 4 of last split, there was a segment you guys did with Fudge where you rank top laners like based on like big Fudge tiers, and he actually ranked Revenge a little bit higher than what most people would think. And I think that was kind of the start of the conversation. Like I've always felt like Revenge was a okay top laner, it's not on a great team, and I think that was the start of the conversation where like it kind of picked up around like, hey, Revenge is actually, I think he executes his lanes decently well. Like he is a player that is not bad on Immortals, right? So I think for me, it's like his play is still pretty similar from like what I saw. If anything, it's like I don't look at him as much because his team's just better and his team's doing a lot of things around him. But it is fun that like he gets to go up against C9 in the tied for first matchup where I think Fudge is one of the first players that actually started to give him some more props publicly. So that's good.
I mean, we'll see if they're tied for first by Friday. I hope they are. By the way, just random aside, I cannot figure out what LCS programming wants to be because for a while they were moving the hype matches to the end of the day.
Yes.
Then
Fight night schedule, please.
Then this week I look and like the hype matches are at the beginning of the day. So I don't understand. Maybe they're just experimenting, but it's like, which one is it? Is it better to have them at the start or at the end? I don't know.
Mark, you better be my mole in there for fight night schedule.
Who can say?
Ooh.
Who
You
can
think
say what's going on?
Mark
anywhere?
has any influence on the inside of the LCS? This man shows up, films a game show, trolls some players, and then goes straight home. Right?
Makes up his own rules.
You think I give a fuck about the LCS at all? I'm just here to support my cats. It's a paycheck to me.
All right. Anyway, thank you so much, Michael, for the call. Anything you want to shout out?
Yeah. So first, shout out Energy DeMonte. Join his Discord. He's really cool. Second, shout out the stream that you're continuing later after this. Everybody make sure to stick around for that.
You could say Magic the Gathering.
A strategic
stream.
final caller. Well done.
Yeah.
Good pull, Mark.
I met Michael at a Magic event last November, the first one I went to, and you can't give Mark credit because this was the one caller I pulled tonight. So you got to.
I wonder why.
Anyway,
I wonder how he ended up here.
Hey, I didn't strategically put him at the end as the last caller, though. That was Michael. Michael was chosen by Mark in the order that Mark determined. Either way, yeah, stick around, everybody, because we're going to be doing a sponsored stream, but it's going to be a cool sponsored stream, so please stick around. But yeah, thank you. Anything else, Michael?
Yeah, shout out LCS. That C9 EG game should be a banger, so everybody make sure to watch it.
Yes, please watch the LCS. Dear God, please watch the LCS.
Also, watch Thursday Game 3. We're doing a dive cast. Spoilers. Cubby, me, and Azael are casting a game together.
One last shout out DRX. They finally won a match. Longtime DRX fan. They finally did it. Let's go.
Yeah, against Nongshim, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't get too excited about that win, you know. But,
that's good. It's a win. We take
a start.
those.
Yeah, it's a start.
Paddock looks awesome, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Anyway, thank you so much, Michael, for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
Yep, see ya.
That is the show.
Now, Thursday Game 3 is Dig TSM.
That's the dive cast?
Yeah, it's a dive cast.
All right.
Azael's play-by-playing.
I'll be on site on Thursday. So.
Oh, really? That's fun.
Yep.
Nice.
All right. Thank you so much, Cubby, for being on. I hope you had a good time. Mark, before I give Cubby his shout-outs, what do you want to shout out?
Shout out Natsume for being such a cutie patootie. That's it.
That's his animal, by the way, for those that are confused.
Aww.
It's not like some random person that Mark is. It's not like a pet name for his fiance. Anyway, Cubby, what do you want to shout out?
Shout out to the LCS team for having me this past week. Always a pleasure. And everyone that works behind the scenes is always like really supportive, really nice. So it's always fun. And then shout out to Challengers League. So LCS_Challengers and Path to LCS. It's every Saturday, Sunday, Monday at 11 or 1 p.m. Pacific. We start up the games. And TLC is playing really well right now. They're 15-3 in the league, and definitely have some there are some players that I expect to see an LCS next split, especially given where salaries are headed. I think that might be some extra opportunities for some NA players.
Cubby, listen, those days you just listed, those are LEC days, and
they rate us after.
What
Travis.
I learned this split or this year is that no one is capable of watching both LEC and the North American League right afterwards. So I apologize, but I just can't do it.
Bad time slot, Cubby. No one's trying to watch on the weekends.
You know that they raid the stream, so you could watch LEC and then fall asleep at your computer playing Magic, and then you can still spectate and count as a viewer afterwards, and hopefully actively participate when you get up. You know,
that sounds nice. All right. Either way, thank you, Cubby. Thank you, Mark. For me, just I got content coming out this week. Go! Oh God, please go look at this week's surprise test. I released it over the weekend, and nobody watched it, and it's quite good. And I don't want to stop doing surprise tests. So if you like surprise tests, go watch that one so that it actually gets, and share it with people and send it around. Send it, put it on a mailing list, a chain mailing list to your grandmother, and
send it to your grandma. Send it to your mom. New recipe.
Yeah.
That'll get all the grandmas to click it.
No, the people do fan art. Here's the hook: people do fan art of Captain Flowers in it, the other casters, and it's not great. Anyway, thanks everyone for watching. Stick around. Bye.